Hello, welcome back to another episode of Gospel of Manoj with me and Irene Joselet. So let's begin today's session with the origin of festivals. As population increased, agriculture, farming, and religious customs developed, leading to the development of regular special pujas during seed sowing and harvesting. People gathered in the temple of God to impress Him for blessings and good yields. Harvest days were also significant for giving thanks and offerings to God. Birds and animals were treated with special food and puja. As agriculture and livestock farming increased, it became difficult to transport seeds and harvested crops to the temple. Instead, God was transported to farms for pujas, making the transfer a holistic event. Ancient civilizations had a hierarchy of leaders, with the priest taking on religious duties and the king being the leader for others' walks of life. As disputes and quarrels increased between regions, a single king was chosen to rule the entire civilization. The king took care of the people within the region, while the emperor took care of the entire civilization. The priest provided advice, predictions, and religion related matters. The first ruler to use the title as the King of the Kings was Sargon of Akkad, followed by other civilizations. The strongest king was titled King of the Universe, and the priest and the high priest used distinct custom practices to show their authority. The kings and emperors were obedient to the priest, fearing of God and rituals. The god Marduk was believed to be the royal personality seated in heaven, and the god Bel represented order and destiny. The Aketo festival, held in ancient Mesopotamia, was a spring festival celebrated during the first month of Nizanu to sow barley. The festival played a significant role in the development of religion, myth, and ritual theories. During the festival, statues of gods were paraded through the city streets, symbolizing their victory over chaos. People believed the world was cleansed and recreated by the gods in preparation for the new year and the spring in return. A king was brought before a statue of the god Marduk, stripped of royal regalia and slapped by the high priest. If the king cried and shed tears, it was considered a sign of Marduk's satisfaction and extended rule. The festival became a prestige celebration with multiple days added for the New Year's festival. Babylonia was an ancient Akkadian-speaking state in the central southern Mesopotamia, initially called the country of Akkad. It expanded into a capital city and established the Sabbath, a sacred day of rest for the soul. The Shabbat was a holy day for worship, as it was a day of rest for gods, not their worshippers. God's agents, including king, priest, and high priest, rested on this day, while the population worked to please them. The Babylonians identified 7 planets as wandering stars and connected them to their god concepts. The Mesopotamians celebrated various festivals based on the plans to connect with God. They held festivals during the new moon and full moon, celebrating various festivals connected to these deities. Their religious system was complex with hundreds of gods. Each Sumerian city was guarded by its own god, and humans were considered servants to God. The high priest placed the planets in order closest to the earth to furthest as the moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Since they considered only these 7 planets, the day was divided into 7-hour intervals, each ruled by one of the planets. But the modern English days of the weeks were inherited from the gods of the old Germanic Norse culture. When they have invented different metals for their agriculture, they transformed base metals such as lead and copper into silver or gold, and to discover a cure for disease to extend life. And they have classified each planet with one of the 7 metals because they believed these planets held dominion over those metals. Anu, Bel, and Ea were 3 divine powers who believed they created humans to work for the gods. Anu, the god of gods, agreed that their labor was too great, and his son Ea proposed to create man to bear the labor. A god was put to death and mixed with clay, creating the first human being in Eden. A Sumerian word meaning flat terrain. Initially, humans were unable to reproduce, but later modified with the help of Enki and Enki, leading to Adapa being created as a fully functional and independent human being. This modification, without Enki's approval, led to a conflict between the gods. The authorities of earth, like priests and kings, were appointed by the gods from heaven, and they had to work according to their guidance. The gods decided to destroy mankind through a flood, resulting in various versions of the flood. I conclude by saying that do not learn the ways of the nations and be terrified by the signs in the sky, for the practices of the people are worthless. They cut a tree from the forest, and a craftsman shapes it with his chisel. They adorn it with silver and gold. They fasten it with hammer and nail, so it will not totter. Like a scarecrow in a cucumber field, their idols cannot speak. They must be carried because they cannot walk. Do not fear them. They can do no harm, nor can they do any good. They were all senseless and foolish, which were taught by wooden idols. Hammered silver and gold, what the craftsman and goldsmith have made it, then dressed in purple and blue, all made by skilled workers. So stay tuned until the next episode. This is Anna Joslet signing off.